The Machine. 4 men. 1 offseason. 4 different ways to have your life rewritten by the same game. One of them came back when nobody thought he would. One of them is fighting to keep what he just earned. One of them walked away from the only city that ever believed in him. And one of them chose to leave on his own terms, something almost no one in the NFL ever does. This is not a highlight reel. This is what happened when the cameras turned off and the hardest decisions of their lives were the ones nobody was watching. Watch closely. Story 1. Aaron Rodgers, the legend, who refused the exit. On May 18, 2026, the Pittsburgh Steelers made it official. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. 1 year. Up to $25 million. Season number 22. And here is what nobody in the broadcast said. This is not a football decision. This is a man who refuses to be written off. Think about what Rodgers has lived through. 4 MVPs. A Super Bowl. The darkness retreat. The Achilles tear 4 snaps into his Jets debut. An entire season gone in the flash. The comeback at 41 in Pittsburgh. And now, at 42, he is standing on a practice field in May. At OTS, which, if you know, Rodgers is the last place he usually shows up in May. Last year, he showed up at mandatory minicamp. That was the first time. This year, he was on the practice field the same day he signed. Throwing passes, taking first-team reps, working with a receiving corps that was almost entirely rebuilt around him over the winter. That is not a man winding down. That is a man with something to prove, because here is what changed. Mike McCarthy. Rodgers and McCarthy spent 13 seasons together in Green Bay. They won a Super Bowl. They built the most feared offense in football. And then it fell apart. The criticism. The sideways glances. The eventual divorce. McCarthy was fired in 2018. Rodgers said the quiet part loud for years. People inside the league believed the relationship was permanently broken. That those 13 seasons had ended in a way that left no door open. And somehow, after everything, they ended up together again. Different team. Same 2 men. Older. Carrying the same history. But here is the part the cameras miss. Rodgers is not just returning for redemption. He is returning with weapons. DK Metcalf, acquired via trade from Seattle. Michael Pittman Jr., acquired from Indianapolis in March. A revamped offensive line. A young QB room behind him. Drew Aller, Will Howard, watching every throw, learning every read. Tom Brady once called Rodgers the greatest passer he ever played against. These kids grew up watching highlight reels of those throws. Now they are in the same huddle. Rodgers at 42 is not fighting for a starting job. He is fighting for how he will be remembered. Every throw this season is a sentence in his final chapter, and he knows it. 4 months. An entire franchise was frozen, waiting on one man's decision. Players uncertain about the offense. Coaches unable to fully install the system. Rookies not knowing who they were building around. That uncertainty had a cost, and Rodgers was the only person who could end it. He took his time, and then, when he was ready, he signed, showed up, and started working. 2 days after signing, Rodgers stood at Steelers OTAs and faced the question directly. Is this the last season? 3 words. Yes, this is it. 22 years, 4 MVPs, 1 Super Bowl, 527 touchdown passes, and 1 final season in Pittsburgh. With the coach, he won it all with the first time. The waiting is over. The goodbye has begun. That is not just an off-season story. That is what quarterback power looks like in the modern NFL. But Rodgers is not the only quarterback whose life just got rewritten this offseason. 800 miles south of Pittsburgh, another quarterback walked into OTAs this week knowing the team that drafted him might already be preparing to move on. And unlike Rodgers, Michael Penix Jr. is not fighting for legacy. He is fighting for his future. Story 2. Michael Penix Jr., the heir who might lose his throne. Michael Penix Jr. walked into the Atlanta Falcons facility this week for OTAs. He is 25 years old, the Falcons' first-round pick, 8th overall, 2024, and standing on the field next to him was Tua Tagovailoa, the former Miami Dolphins franchise quarterback, the man who led the NFL in passing yards in 2023. He is now an Atlanta Falcon on a 1-year contract, and Michael Penix Jr., the heir apparent, is now in a genuine, open quarterback competition. Falcons head coach Kevin Stefanski told reporters he will rotate reps between Penix and Tagovailoa every single drill, every single period. No predetermined answer. A real competition. The previous regime was adamant Penix would be the starter the moment he was healthy. The new group made no such commitment. And Penix was asked about it. I am running my own race. I cannot look into another lane. He is running his own race. But for the first time in his young career, someone else is running on the same track. Here is what the cameras never show you about Michael Penix Jr. Right knee delays 2019. Right knee again 2021. Left knee 2025. 3 ACL tears in 8 years. Each time he came back, he transferred to Washington, led them to the national championship game, finished second in Heisman voting, 8th overall pick. The Atlanta believed in him. Then November 2025. Left knee. Week 11. Carolina Panthers. 3rd ACL. While he was in surgery, the Falcons kept moving. New coach, new GM, new regime with no emotional investment in the pick made before them. And then they signed Tua Tagovailoa. Not because Penix has failed, because the NFL does not reward loyalty with patience. It rewards leverage with certainty. And right now, the Falcons are not certain about anyone. Here is what the cameras never show you about a quarterback competition. It is not just about who throws the better ball. It is about what happens inside a young man's mind when the team that drafted him brings in a veteran who has already done everything he is trying to do. Tua has thrown for 600 yards in a season. Tua has been to the playoffs. Tua has been the face of a franchise. Penix has started 9 NFL games. The league does not care about draft pedigree. It cares about who gives you the best chance to win on Sunday. The untold story here is not who wins the job. It is what this competition does to a young quarterback who has already fought through 3 ACL tears just to get to this moment. Penix has been running his own race his entire career. The question is whether he can keep running it with Tua Tagovailoa breathing down his neck. If you are watching this during Falcons OTAs, right now, this competition is still unfolding in real time. Subscribe, because the story does not end when this video ends. Penix is fighting to keep a future the league has not yet confirmed. But this offseason also produced a different kind of story. The story of a man who earned everything and still had to walk away. Story 3. Kenneth Walker. 3. The champion who walked away. Kenneth Walker. 3. Ran the Seattle Seahawks to a Super Bowl. Not walked, ran. In Super Bowl 60, Walker was named MVP. 135 yards, 27 carries, a 29-13 victory over the New England Patriots. The first running back to win Super Bowl MVP in nearly 30 years. The last time a running back won this award, Harold Davis. Super Bowl 32. 1998. Walker joined that conversation with his legs alone. He was Seattle's heartbeat. The fans loved him. The city adopted him. 4 seasons. 2,000-yard rushing seasons. A Super Bowl ring. One of the most exciting running backs in the NFL. And then he left. In March 2026, Kenneth Walker III signed a 3-year contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the richest contracts ever given to a running back in free agency. 3 years, $45 million, $28.7 million guaranteed, and Seattle was stunned. The Seahawks had the cap space. They had the motivation. They had every reason to bring back the man who just ran their franchise to its 2nd Super Bowl championship. They let him walk. Some fans understood. This is the business. You win the Super Bowl, you get paid. Walker earned every dollar. But other fans, the ones who wore his jersey, who screamed his name in the rain at Lumen Field, they felt something different. They felt abandoned. And here is the part that tells you everything about this story. At the Super Bowl parade in Seattle, GM John Schneider grabbed the microphone. Ken Walker, being the MVP, let us go. He tried negotiating with me 5 minutes ago. It was really... Walker stood nearby and shook his head, visibly, on camera, in front of a city that was still celebrating. Later that day on Instagram stories, he responded directly. Must have been the liquor he drinking. 'Cause I never said that. Whether it was a joke or a signal, the Seahawks let him walk anyway. Sometime during the season, things is not working out how I was expecting to. And that is all right. It worked out for the team. It worked out for the team. Not for me, for the team. That is the sentence of a man who carried a professional hurt with grace, who ran harder because of it, who delivered the greatest performance of his life, while already knowing it would be his last as a Seahawk. Kansas City gave him commitment, a clear role, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, an offense being rebuilt around his strengths for the first time in his professional life. In Week 7 per the NFL schedule, Kenneth Walker, 3 returns to Lumen Field, prime time, in the wrong colors, running toward the fans who used to chant his name. The fans who watched him win a championship, and then watched him leave for Kansas City 3 weeks later. That game has not happened yet, but every football fan in Seattle already knows what it will feel like. And Kenneth Walker III knows it too. The NFL does not reward greatness with loyalty. It rewards leverage with contracts. Kenneth Walker III learned that lesson. While holding the most valuable trophy in American sports, Walker was pushed by the business of the league. Penix is being tested by it. Rodgers is defying it. But one man this offseason did something the NFL almost never allows. He chose his own exit. Before the exit, chose him. Story 4. Mike Tomlin, the icon who chose the door. On January 2026, Mike Tomlin resigned as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 19 years, 193 wins, 114 losses, 2 ties, not a single losing season, not one, in 19 years. The kind of record that should feel untouchable. And Tomlin did it in the hardest division in football, in a city that measures you by Lombardi trophies and nothing else. He won with Ben Roethlisberger. He won without Roethlisberger. He navigated quarterback controversies, salary cap constraints, ownership pressure, and the relentless scrutiny of one of the NFL's most passionate fan bases. His final season ended with a 36 loss to the Houston Texans. That was the last game Mike Tomlin coached. Not a storybook ending. Not a final playoff run. A 24-point loss on a pernatuary night in Pittsburgh. And then he walked away. The NFL fired 61 head coaches during the same period. Tomlin held his position. Organizations cycling through 2, 3, 4, 5 different coaches. Watching Pittsburgh remain stable year after year. That stability was not accidental. It was the result of daily decisions made under pressure that never showed publicly. Every game day decision carries consequences for other people's livelihoods. Every injury changes careers. Every press conference is a performance of certainty in moments where certainty does not exist. And in Pittsburgh, football is not entertainment. It is identity. Steelers games are watched by fans whose grandparents watched Steelers games. The pressure to uphold that legacy is not simply professional. It is cultural, historical. Tomlin carried that for 19 years, and when he finally spoke about why he left, he did not talk about the losses, did not talk about playoff droughts. He talked about something quieter. There is a loneliness with leadership. I just thought it was a good time for me, personally, and I thought it was a good time for the organization. That sentence carries the weight of 2 decades. Because when you lead at the highest level for long enough, the performance of certainty becomes the reality. You stop being able to separate the role from the person. The discipline required to project stability publicly begins consuming the parts of you that exist privately. People stop seeing the cost when excellence becomes expected. Winning becomes normalized. Discipline becomes assumed. Leadership becomes invisible. And eventually, the human being underneath the role disappears, not to the public, but to himself. Tomlin recognized something most leaders never allow themselves to recognize. That the pressure was changing him, not breaking him, changing him. And he chose to leave before that change became permanent. He has since joined NBC Sports as an analyst on Football Night in America. Officially announced April 26, 2026. A way to stay connected to the game without the wait those 19 years required. His predecessor Bill Cowher made the same transition in 2007. Cowher never went back to coaching. Most people who leave the NFL on their own terms never do. Because leaving on your own terms is the rarest thing in professional football. Knowing when to leave is just as important as knowing how to lead. And very few people, in football or anywhere else, ever learn that lesson in time. Well, 4 men, 4 different decisions, 4 different kinds of pressure. Rodgers came back because the game will not let him go. Penix is fighting because the game will not promise him anything. Walker walked away because the game is a business that rewards you only when you make it reward you. And Tomlin left because sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is walk out on his own terms. The cameras show you the touchdowns, the press conferences, the contract numbers. What they never show you is the weight of these decisions, the sleepless nights, the conversations with family, the moment you realize that the game you gave your life to is also the thing that is taking pieces of you, one season at a time. That is the side of football that deserves to be told. Not because it is sad, because it is real. These are the NFL stories happening underneath the headlines. If this is the kind of story you come here for, the part the cameras miss, subscribe. Because the story does not end when the whistle blows. It ends when the people who lived it finally tell you what it cost. Watch closely.